20 years ago, I was making the wines at Piekenierskloof. It was Bordeaux time, when Expo. Mark and I traveled over to Bordeaux and we drove down over the border to Spain. We wanted to go and visit Alvo Palacios in the Priorato. And then while we were driving through the Penedès and the Conca de Barbera and the Conca Brava, kind of reaching the Priorato, we came up with this idea to make a wine called the Chocolate Block. And for that we needed Grenache. In South Africa, the only place where one could find Grenache in those years was in an area called the Piekenierskloof. I've been searching on the Piekenierskloof for a really special farm to start this Piekenierskloof project. And then 10 years ago I came across the Swartberg farm, Swartberg Wingerde, owned by Dr. Jurgens Hanekom, an old gentleman. He's just turned 82. This farm is on the foot of the Swartberg mountain. You need to drive over 4 different farms to eventually get here. There's no thorough through, so doesn't get further than this. Welcome to Swartberg. So with Johan Rudiger, we've been farming biodynamically now for the last 20 odd years. And I wanted to take it one step further. Johan once gave me this book to read by our old statesman Jan Smuts in South Africa, who came up with this concept of holism. And this is very much what this farm represents to me. This idea of moving away from agriculture. Even if it's biodynamic agriculture, one still farms with a monoculture. Here it's very different. It's as if this little bit of green that's been created has been adopted by this wider natural environment, and it's been integrated of sorts. There's never a tractor that runs through these rows like you can see. If we spray something, we do it by backpack. We don't seed cover crops in the winter. We don't till or work the soil at all. But apart from that, we prune the vineyards in winter time, and then we really just let them grow out without working them any harder than that. So this vineyard we're in today, this is the Sangiro vineyard. This is where we make the Sangiro Pinotage from. You're going to taste the 2017 vintage today, which is our maiden vintage. So the way we grow the Pinotage is very different to the conventional way. The idea is rather let the vineyard sprawl out. We don't really break away all of the weaker shoots. Let them all kind of grow fairly lush. And because we don't work with implements, the soil, what can happen as it heats up in summertime, the shoots can actually start sprawling along the soil, kind of protecting the grapes. We get a lot more bunches, but the bunches are a lot smaller than you would have in kind of the conventional way. But at the same time, you ripen the grapes also differently. There's not so much sugar buildup so quickly. And it's as if the acidity remains a lot more intact. It doesn't, the malic acid doesn't drop away so quickly in summertime. So all of a sudden, we start managing to make a Pinotage that has 12.5% alcohol, yet still a very firm acidity. And because of this altitude of the Piekenierskloof, these vineyards growing at nearly 700 meters altitude, we still get quite of depth and kind of layers and complexity in the wine. The 2 grape varieties that are famous in the Piekenierskloof is Grenache Noir and Palomino. I'm sitting in one of the oldest Grenache Noir vineyards, not only on the Piekenierskloof but also in South Africa, I guess. This is my neighboring farm of Swartberg. And a few years ago I started working together with my two neighbors from Swartberg to create the Miracle Bush wines. So we farmed together and I started sourcing their grapes. in order to make the Miracle Bush White and the Miracle Bush Red. Above us is one of the oldest Chenin Blanc vineyards. I'm sitting in one of the oldest Grenache vineyards. And just down from this vineyard is the oldest Palomino vineyard we work with. All of these vineyards were planted in 1964. That's also where this idea of Miracle Bush comes from. You know, if you have a look at these vines, if you have a look at their stem, you know, being this big, this is all unirrigated dryland bush vines that have been growing here, you know, for more than half a century. We still manage to pick the fruit of them every year in order to make these delicious wines. The soils of the Piekenierskloof are predominantly sandstone, like you see the rocks I'm sitting on. It's decomposed sandstone, so the soils start becoming sandy and alluvial. The Miracle Bush Red, the idea is to blend Grenache with Syrah and Pinotage. It's the Pinotage that gives the wine the backbone. We grow the Pinotage on sandy soils. The Syrah gives all kind of these crazy aromatic fruit flavors on the wine, but the palate probably is a little bit too coarse by itself, and that's where the Grenache really comes in. Once we blend the Grenache in, it brings the juiciness and just pulls the wine together. So I was earlier talking about this idea of holism, farming in a holistic manner, where we like to believe that, you know, the sum of the parts are greater than the parts themselves. And that's very much what these blends of Miracle Bush and White and Red also do. You know, it's the sum of these varieties form a much greater wine than the varieties by themselves. With the Miracle Bush White, we blend Chenin Blanc with Grenache Blanc and Palomino. Palomino is beautiful. It's the first time I'm really working with a grape, but I must admit I love it. Normally, if you come here during harvest time to check if the grapes are ready for picking, that's normally the bunch I would cut off and drive home next to me, and I start eating it while I drive back because the grapes are just so delicious. The wine itself is normally quite light. Palomino doesn't have a lot of acidity. Also the alcohol level, the sugar level you pick it at is quite low, so the alcohol isn't very high. But it gives an unbelievable nice floralness on the nose. It's kind of a white flower the wine turns out to be. The Grenache Blanc just gives a whole lot of depth and width to the wine, and the Chenin really is the backbone. The Chenin Blanc blends in the acidity, it pulls it all very nicely together and makes a really nice fresh white wine at 12.5% alcohol, yet you still have a linearity that comes out of the Chenin Blanc with nice depth and layers and width out of the Grenache Blanc, and then there's just kind of beautiful salty finish that you get from the Palomino. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to take you up to the Piekenierskloof. I hope it gives you a bit of an insight what Swartberg Wingerde is about, gives you a bit of a feel of the story we're trying to tell. I hope you enjoy the wines as much as we enjoyed making them. I can only hope that we'll be able to meet each other face to face sometime soon again. Cheers.